Hello ladies and gentlemen, in this video we're going to take a look at the sound control part of our video player. And we will get started by making this button clickable. So let's open up our JavaScript file and let's add a new element. Let's see, this sound button is contained within the buttons controller. So in here I will create a variable called sound button and I'll set it equal to document.getElementById sound-button. Now let's add an event listener to the sound button whenever the video is ready to be played. Sound button.add event listener. We're going to listen to click events, and whenever such an event occurs, I want to run the mute or unmute function. Let's set the last argument to false. Alright, now let's create this mute or unmute function. All the way down, I will create a function called mute or unmute. This is first going to test if the video is already muted. And to test that, we can use the muted property. So if video.muted, or rather if the video is not muted, I want to mute the video. And I can do that by setting this muted property equal to true. So video.muted equals true. And otherwise, if the video is not muted, I want to set the muted property equal to false. Or I mean, if it is muted. If it's not muted, we will mute it, and if it is muted, we will unmute it by setting it equal to false. But that's not the only thing. I also want the button image to change to the mute icon, because if we take a look at our images folder, there's also a mute button right there. So whenever we are muting the video, let's change the source on that sound button. So sound button.src equals images/mute.png. And of course, when we unmute it, we would like to change that back. So sound button.src equals images/sound.png. Alright, let's test this in the browser. I will refresh it. And now, if we play it, let me just adjust the volume. If we play it and I hit this mute button, notice how it stopped playing the music and how the icon has changed. And if we click it again, the music will start playing again. Alright, so everything is working so far. Well, the next thing up is to make this soundbar function. So the first thing that I want to do is reset this width on the actual soundbar back to 0, because currently it's at 50%. So let's open up our CSS style sheet, go to the soundbar container, or the soundbar actually, and let's adjust the width from 50% to 0%. And now by default it's completely empty. Or actually, let's set it to 100% so that by default the volume is maximal. Alright, that's better. Now, let's make this clickable from our JavaScript file. At the top, at the buttons container, let's add a few more elements. Of course, we need the sbar container, which is the element that we're going to click. Sbar container equals document.getElementById sbar-container, because that's what it's called inside our HTML document. And we also need the actual soundbar itself. So document.getElementById sbar. Alright, now we can add an event, a click listener to this soundbar container. So sbar container add event listener. Again, we're listening to click events. And whenever we click the soundbar, I want to execute a function called update volume. Well, let's call it change volume. The last argument is false, as always. Alright, so let's create this change volume function. All the way at the bottom, create a new function called change volume. And just as we did with this skip function, we're going to pass in the event, the click event, so we know where the user has clicked. So EV. And again, the first thing that we want to do is grab the X position of the mouse. And we will do that by using the page X property of the event. And we're going to subtract the offset to the left of our soundbar container. So minus sbar container dot offset left. The next thing that we need to do is grab the width of our soundbar. And I'm not going to write all that code again because the code is exactly the same as we did with our progress bar in the skip function. So I'm going to copy this. I will scroll down. And in here, I don't want to compute its style of the progress bar container, but this time of the S-bar or the soundbar container. Now I still want the width property value, and we still need to drop that pixel extension at the end. So this is the right thing to do. Finally, we need to update the video's volume accordingly, and to change the video's volume we can use the video.volume property. And we're going to set that equal to mouse X divided by width. Because this volume property should have a value between 0 and 1, where 0 corresponds to no sound and 1 corresponds to maximum sound. But apart from just setting the video volume, I also want to update the width of the soundbar so we know, we have a way of graphically telling how loud the video is. So let's set the soundbar width by calling on the soundbar style width property and setting it equal to mouse X divided by width times width, or times 100. And at the end we're going to add a percentage sign, which will update the soundbar in the right way. So let's test this code in the browser. I will refresh it. The mute button is still working. And if we try to adjust the volume using this soundbar, you notice that the video gets less loud and the soundbar gets updated accordingly. Now we can still mute the video by clicking the mute icon and unmuting it again. However, when we mute the video, I would like to make this soundbar disappear. So let's quickly do that. So whenever we are muting the video, let's set the display property of our soundbar equal to none, which will effectively cause the soundbar to disappear. And whenever we unmute it, let's make it appear again. And now if we refresh it and try to mute it, you'll notice that the entire bar disappears. And if we unmute it, it appears again. Now there's still one final thing that I want to add to this. If the video is muted like it currently is, and we try to click somewhere, you'll notice that it doesn't unmute. So let's add that in so that we can also click in order to unmute the sound. So whenever we're changing the volume, I also want to unmute the video. So I'm just going to copy this right here. So that whenever we fire this change volume function, which gets fired when we click the soundbar, the video is no longer muted. The sound button gets changed back to the sound.png icon, and the soundbar will become visible again. Alright, and now if we test it one last time by refreshing, and if we play it and mute the audio, we can also unmute by clicking this soundbar container. And it has changed the icon again. Alright, so that's all about the sound control. And let me just change this video back to the smaller sample video from our HTML file. Let's see, I'm going to change this to sample.mp4 because we don't need a long video. Alright, so that's all for this video. All source code will be available at cocotuts.com, so thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.